Ladies and gentlemen, basketball is going to continue to give us news after content, after content, after content. And as a YouTuber that talks about the NBA consistently, I'm always going to have stuff to talk about. Always. And today we're going to be talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo possibly getting traded. Now, this has been something that's been going on for the past few seasons. Giannis has been always somebody that has put pressure on the franchise to build a roster around him. And that's not due to the Milwaukee Bucks not trying. They have tried to put a competent roster around Giannis Antetokounmpo, and it just hasn't been working out. So it looks like Giannis is fed up. The Milwaukee Bucks went on like a huge losing streak when Giannis wasn't playing, and that's something we could have predicted. We said coming into the season that Giannis cannot miss more than a week of basketball. He can't do it. Before he went out, I think the Bucks were comfortably a playoff team. Now they're looking towards the lottery, and Giannis might be fed up. So for about 7 straight seasons, let me move this over just a little bit so y'all can see it. For 7 straight years, I would even say 8 straight years, Giannis Antetokounmpo has averaged at least 27 points per game while being top 5 in MVP voting. 8 straight years of being top 5 in MVP voting, averaging at least 27 points per game, being one of the best transition athletes in the world. For the first half of these, he was one of the best defenders in the world. He's still maybe top 30 defenders in the world. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a guy. Giannis Antetokounmpo is really good, and he's about to be on the trade market. And what I think is really important this time than the last times, I think Milwaukee are finally starting to run out of assets. The past few years, you still had Damian Lillard on the roster. You still had that, oh, well, these guys were hurt in the postseason, so we want to see what happens when they're fully healthy. Now Dame's not here. Dame's not here. It's Giannis and Ryan Rollins and Miles Turner and Taurean Prince and Kyle Kuzma and AJ Green. Now don't get me wrong. This Bucks team has been solid with Giannis on the floor. They had some really big wins, one against New York. I remember when Giannis was out, they beat the Warriors. This was some pretty good wins to start the season. And coming into the year, I was quite sure, and a lot of people were quite sure, that the Milwaukee Bucks couldn't go a week or two without Giannis Antetokounmpo being on the court. And now that it's happened, Giannis has missed a few games. They're out of the playoff race. And I think Giannis is looking at the situation like, yeah, I can stay on this team. I can carry us to a 5th or 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. We can lose in the first round, or I can go compete for championships. Giannis Antetokounmpo has a legit path to being the greatest power forward of all time. I don't think people are ready for that conversation. I don't think people are ready for that conversation that Giannis Antetokounmpo could finish his career as the greatest power forward of all time. It's not going to happen in Milwaukee. And before we even get into the top 5 teams, I want to talk about what a team will be getting with Giannis Antetokounmpo. We're talking about one of, if not the greatest transition athletes of all time. Over the past 7 years, I believe there's been one season where the Milwaukee Bucks were outside of the top 10 in transition efficiency and transition frequency. We're talking about one of the best downhill half-court players of all time. Giannis Antetokounmpo is one of those. Somebody that's gotten much better as a playmaker and passer. Giannis Antetokounmpo has done that to the point where just put Giannis around a whole bunch of spacers. The Milwaukee Bucks are the most efficient three-point shooting team in the league. Giannis Antetokounmpo may not be able to shoot, but he creates some of the most wide-open threes in basketball. There's not much you can do with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, like I said, we will not be including Oklahoma City in this video. Not because I don't think it should happen, not because I don't think it can happen, but because that's kind of the obvious pick. I want to talk about some other teams, and the first team that I think is really slept on is the Atlanta Hawks. There are 2 teams that there's one team I'm going to talk about in this video, the other one being OKC, that have a pick that is so substantial to where you may not have to give up that really young asset because you have a first round draft pick and a loaded draft class that might land you top 5. And with the Atlanta Hawks, that pick belongs to the New Orleans Pelicans. The New Orleans Pelicans sit at the bottom of the Western Conference right now, and it looks like they're going to have a top 3 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. So I mocked up a trade. Now, before you guys jump down my neck, I want you guys to realize that I am not a general manager. I'm just trying to see what the money looks like and what a potential package could look like. So This package would include Kristaps Porzingis as he's on an expiring contract. The Milwaukee Bucks don't have to keep him, just take on the money for a season. Zachary Reese-Shea, Austin Newell, a 2026 first-round pick from the New Orleans Pelicans, a 2027 first-round pick, and a 2030 first-round pick. All of that to receive Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, I know the fit might be a little wonky. Your two forwards might be Jalen Johnson and Giannis Antetokounmpo because I don't see Giannis moving to the 5 anytime soon. And I think Jalen Johnson and Giannis Antetokounmpo are good enough ball handlers to play the 3 and the 4. You still have Trae Young, you have Dyson Daniels right next to him, and you can start Onyeka Okongwu at your 5. I think that becomes the best transition team in basketball. Immediately. You have Giannis, you have Jalen, you have Trae Young, you have Dyson Daniels. You still have guys like Luke Kennard off the bench. You got guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker that's still on the team. This team is one of the best defenses in the league, one of the best transition offenses in the league. They're going to get to the rim. You have a very nice pick-and-roll tandem partner with Jalen Johnson or Giannis Antetokounmpo. I really like what the Atlanta Hawks could do with this. And I think they don't have to send Jalen Johnson because you have a potential top 5 pick in basketball that you're sending that way. You have a number 1 overall pick in Zachary Reese-Shea. Now, understand that he's not the caliber of number 1 overall picks that we've seen in the past years. Cooper Flagg, Victor Wembanyama, Paolo Banchero, Cade Cunningham. But he is still a very good player in basketball. He's a really good role player. He can fill the gaps. I think Atlanta is a really underrated team for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And with the Eastern Conference being how it is, I know we've talked about this all year, the Eastern Conference is wide open. There's still a lot of really good teams in the Eastern Conference. I do think this makes Atlanta favorites. If Giannis, Trae, Jalen Johnson, still a really deep bench. You got guys like Vic Krejci, Mohamed Guy. You have Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off your bench. You got Keaton Wallace, who can give you some really good spot minutes. I think this Atlanta Hawks team becomes favorites in the Eastern Conference where every single team has a lot of flaws. Every single team. I think that Atlanta Hawks team becomes favorites, and I don't think they're that far away from making a competent package to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Milwaukee Bucks would end with Reese-Shea, a top 3 pick, whether that's Darren, Cam, or AJ, and they can start their rebuild properly. The next team I want to talk about is the team that a lot of people are talking about, and that's the San Antonio Spurs. We know the attraction with Giannis in San Antonio. That is Victor Wembanyama and Giannis Antetokounmpo being one of the best front courts the league has ever seen. Giannis Antetokounmpo with the ball handling, Victor Wembanyama with the play finishing, floor spacing, and defensive presence. I don't know how you deal with that. Imagine trying to contain a Giannis drive and you have a 7'5" human being standing in the dunker. How do you stop that? And you better pray they don't keep Dylan Harper and De'Aaron Fox. How do you stop that dribble penetration? How do you stop that? I want you guys to let me know in the comments how you stop that dribble penetration. Dylan Harper's looking like he's getting used to the NBA day by day by day. He's one of the best rookies in the class. He's coming off the bench right now. De'Aaron Fox is one of the best point guards in basketball. Both of these guys have elite handle. Good slashing ability, can get into the teeth of the defense at will. And you're telling me a 7'5" behemoth who can shoot from 3 is going to be sitting on the baseline or sitting in the dunker? Or you're telling me you have the best half-court driver of all time, damn near, waiting on the wing to attack a closeout? I don't want it to happen. The only thing I would say would be my biggest concern with that San Antonio Spurs team will probably be the 3-point shooting that you would get. De'Aaron Fox and Dylan Harper aren't the most consistent 3-point shooters. You wouldn't love Victor Wembanyama to be your floor spacer for an offense. The trade package I have put together. Now, obviously, Dylan Harper might be a part of the move, but the trade package I have is Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Dylan Harper, and 4 first-round picks. Not Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle. So let me read that again. The trade package I have is Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, Stephon Castle, and 4 first-round picks to get Giannis Antetokounmpo. So my biggest concern is Carter Bryant ready to start at the three? Do you start Jeremy Sohan? You can also start Julian Champagny. There's a bunch of different options. I think they're probably going to go with Champagny because he does provide that 3-point shooting that team would need. So they would probably have a starting lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, Champagny, Giannis, and Victor Wembanyama. I think that's a threat to the OKC. I think that is a threat to OKC. Would I pick them over OKC? I don't know. I have to see how Wemby plays in the postseason, but I also do think Giannis will be a force against OKC, who kind of struggle against a really dominant interior force that they can't necessarily double off of. Um, I would really like that San Antonio Spurs team, and they would contend. They would contend immediately for the next 5 years. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do against Victor Wembanyama in a postseason, but I think that team could give OKC a very tough time in the postseason. A quick filler team that I have is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they could throw a slight offer to the Milwaukee Bucks, given that you have Evan Mobley. I don't know if Cleveland would be willing to move off of Evan Mobley, depending, just looking at his age and the grand scheme of things. I would really like a duo of Donovan Mitchell and Giannis Antetokounmpo with Darius Garland on the floor as well, being the floor setter for guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Donovan Mitchell. One of my biggest concerns for the Cavs is they have just been really small in their backcourt, and adding Giannis doesn't necessarily change that. And I don't think Giannis is a better defender, especially game by game, than Evan Mobley. Obviously, when he ramps it up in the postseason, he can look like one of the best defenders in the world. So I'm not necessarily too concerned about that. But the defensive presence that you do get from Evan Mobley is quite damning. And that would be pretty interesting to see. I haven't really thought it all the way through. I just think they would be a nice shout because I do think they have a young player that could be worth giving up. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Evan Mobley, who hasn't been the best this season, I still do think he's going to be all right. I mean, we're about like 16, 17 games into the season, but I do think that could be an interesting offer. Now, there's a team that everybody's talking about, and that's the New York Knicks. Luckily, Karl Anthony Towns and Giannis Antetokounmpo, they're in the same tax bracket. They're in the same tax bracket. I don't think you would have to give up too much outside of Karl Anthony Towns for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Here's my problem with New York. I don't think if Milwaukee's moving off of Giannis, they want to get a player to the caliber of Karl Anthony Towns and not get any substantial picks. As we all know, the Brooklyn Nets received 5 first-round picks from the New York Knicks to get Mikal Bridges. That means some of the picks that New York has is kind of limited. Some of the picks I threw in were a 2026 New York Knicks first-round pick, a 2028 first-round pick, a 2030 first-round pick, and a 2032 first-round pick. Now, by the time 2032 and 2030 roll around, the Knicks could be bad again. But I don't know if the Milwaukee Bucks are willing to take on Karl Anthony Towns' contract. Plus, I don't think the Bucks will be bad enough to be the worst team in basketball, but you never know with the lottery odds. But I just don't see the New York Knicks being able to send a package as good as some of these other teams are willing to give up. For example, I think the top 3 teams for me is Atlanta, OKC, and San Antonio. And I don't think there's much teams that are willing to or can build a package good enough that San Antonio, OKC, and Atlanta could give you. Because in the end of the day, OKC don't necessarily have to move J-Dub and Chet. They have so many picks on top of the Los Angeles Clippers pick, which is going to be top 5 if they continue on this trend. It's going to be really hard to beat out a package like that. It's going to be really hard to beat out a package like that. Like, they can give them AJ Mitchell and Thomas Sorber and a top 5 pick in the draft and 6 other picks. One of them being Dallas's pick in 2028. That's going to be a good pick. That's going to be a really good pick. So that's where I wanted to talk about the Spurs and the Hawks and then kind of shout out a couple of teams that I think would be pretty cool. Do I want Giannis to go to the Spurs? No. I don't want Giannis to go to the Spurs. I don't want Giannis to go to OKC. I don't. I want Giannis to go to the Heat. I think the Heat I think they can give them Kel'el Ware. If they get the rights to the money for Terry Rozier, they can make the money work. But the Heat are another team that just can't build a package as good as OKC, San Antonio, and Atlanta. They can't do it. And that's the most interesting part. Like, if Giannis is really requesting a trade, is he going to request the teams that he wants to go to? Or is he going to just say, hey, I don't care where I go, get me the hell out of Milwaukee? Now, this wouldn't be the first Milwaukee big who left Milwaukee to go play with a jumbo point guard in LA. Just saying. Just saying. Now, do I think Giannis is getting traded? I really do think he's getting traded this time. I really think he's getting traded this time. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe by January 13th, Giannis Antetokounmpo is wearing a San Antonio Spurs jersey. And the league is completely changed. This will be back-to-back years where top 5 players get traded. That's crazy. When was the last time that's happened? If somebody knows in the comment section, let me know. When was the last time 2 top 5 players got traded in back-to-back seasons? That's something crazy to think about. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like this type of content, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at ATBSports1. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram at @TheBuzzerSports_. And make sure you follow me on TikTok at @TheBuzzerENT. And make sure you guys join my playback room where we will be streaming NBA games all season long at The Buzzer Room. And with all that being said, I will see you guys next time. Peace.